Welcome into another episode. I'm really excited to be joined today by someone who just scored over 1,000 career points in her career at K-State, who's been a tremendous player in Manhattan for a minute now, is already a junior, which is kind of wild to say, but Serena Sundell, how are you doing?
I'm good. How are you doing?
I'm great. I can't complain. I'm stuck back in Cleveland, Ohio for family purposes right now. I live in Atlanta typically, so I'm just like my
Mm.
dog's been loving it because he's a husky. I'm very ready to get back down south just about. But
Yeah,
I don't know what weather gets like in Kansas. I feel like it probably gets cold, but
it's snowing right here, so we moved practice up today because we're in a winter storm watch.
oh
So
shit. Well, hopefully not too bad. But
yeah.
yeah, it keeps you on your toes for sure. I guess well, first and foremost, how was that experience? Getting over 1,000 points. I'm sure that was kind of a surreal feeling. Did you notice it happening in the moment, or was it something you didn't really recognize till after the game?
Yeah, I mean that was a goal of mine coming into college to be 1,000 point scorer. Um, so I kind of had my eye on it. I don't think a lot of people knew about it. It was more so I just saw stuff on social media and had a lot of people text me. So I knew after the game, but during the game I didn't know. I was just playing.
Yeah. What was the coolest message you got out of it?
Coolest message. My high school coach sent me a text and also sent the picture from my high school days when I scored 1,000 points, and I just looked like a baby, and I had my big poster with my parents. So that was a pretty surreal feeling just to see how much I've grown and to see me do it again in college. That was a cool comparison.
I love that. That's super dope. It's
Yeah,
like kind of like, it's the sort of thing you don't really think about until you
yeah,
have that moment. You're like, oh wow, okay. We're really far removed.
right.
Um, when you talk about too, like you're an upperclassman now, this is year three headed into conference play, obviously a couple games under your belt already. What is that feeling like? Because I feel like that's got to be, especially now that you're having maybe a moment to sit with it. What is that feeling like? No, like shoot, like we're here now.
Yeah, I feel like this year has gone by really fast, faster than my first 2 years. I think just because I know what to expect and I'm experienced. So this year has just flown by. I can't even believe we're in conference play already. But yeah, it's been fun. I feel like I said, I know what's coming. And conference play is hard and Big 12 is hard. So that's always going to be a shock each year of just going from your non-conference schedule to conference where you're playing, games every 3 days. Yeah, I mean, it feels different this year. I feel like I'm being more of a leader and just my body has adjusted to it as well as my mind. So just the preparation in all aspects, I feel ready for this conference season.
Yeah, especially too, like I know Coach Middy's talked a lot since you got on campus about like becoming a more vocal leader. Obviously, you do a lot of stuff showing by example, but like what has been maybe the biggest growth for you in becoming more vocal? Because I think like I myself was not a vocal player. So
Mhm.
like I always have my coach be like, yeah, we need you to be more vocal. And I'm just like, I don't know how to do that. So
Yeah.
what's kind of the growth process been like for you with that?
Yeah, honestly, when I came here my freshman year, I was not expecting to be the point guard and a starting point guard as a freshman. So that was a big change and a big adjustment. And there were a lot of practices where he was just on me to talk, and I didn't even know what to say, like you said. But I mean, Coach Mitty has done a great job of kind of walking me through that and showing me where I can lead and how I can lead and what I can say to my teammates. So I think just being in it and being in the grind for 3 years now, you just learn. And it's been really fun just learning from him and from our veterans on the team of how to go about that.
Yeah, and when you mentioned too, like coming in and starting right away, like if you look back now, like to, your first practice in summer of, headed into freshman year, and you told yourself, I'm going to start every game I've played up to this point, like what would your reaction have been in that moment?
Oh man, I would have been so surprised. I think especially when I committed here, if you would have told that girl that, that would have been a very, very hard thing to believe. But I think I just came in and I had a good freshman class to come in with that's still here, and we didn't know what to expect. And we just came in and worked hard, and that paid off, and he liked what he saw. But yeah, looking back at my freshman self, that would have been a crazy thing to say.
Yeah, I can imagine too. 'Cause if I remember correctly, I think Kansas State was your only Power Five offer, if I remember correctly, coming
Mhm.
out of high school. So I want to obviously backtracking that. I know Coach Mitty has a lot of ties to Missouri, where you're from, and a lot of the staff does too. Was that a pretty big part in you going to K-State, or what ended up really driving you there?
Yeah, like you said, it was my only Power Five offer. And honestly, my mom was kind of like she wasn't sure. She thought I would maybe be more successful out of mid-major just because that's where I was getting the most interest. But yeah, and I think Coach O, he's at Emporia State, Brian Osterman now.
Mhm.
He was our assistant coach my freshman and sophomore year. He recruited me more, but they both have ties back to Missouri and St. Joseph. And so they did a really good job of recruiting me. I think I really loved my recruiting process with them. I think AAU was pretty crazy time, especially because my class didn't really get any official visits or anything. Some schools would like just see me play one time and offer me right away, and I'm like, okay, that's cool. You liked that game, but are you really seeing me like grow as a player? And do you see me fitting into your program? And Coach Mitty, he waited a long time to really make that final offer, and when he did, he came up to a high school game and I played very poorly the first half, and then I came out the second half and played really well, and we won that game, and he really liked to see me come out second half and be fine mentally and kind of just take over. So then he offered me. So I love my recruiting process with him. I love the campus here. I love that it's a small college town because I'm from a small college town. So this is perfect for me. I love everything about a college town. I love how everywhere I go is K-State. You go to the grocery store and people are saying good job or we'll be at your game on Wednesday, whatever. So I love all of that. Yeah, the education was great and it was a Power Five school and I wanted to go try it. I loved K-State. My whole recruiting process, I thought it was just a great tradition here of women's basketball. So I wanted to go see if I could play at the highest level, and I'm really glad I did.
And I think if you
Hmm.
look backwards now, like I think you were a three-star recruit coming out of high school and looking all over the place, like, yeah, a lot of schools definitely regret not recruiting you. I think part of what's so interesting though, like you mentioned, everybody has like different ways that they like being recruited. Like everybody, it's not cookie cutter. You can't recruit Serena Sundell the same way you recruit Aoka Lee or
Right.
anybody. And that's so fascinating. And I think especially like you mentioned with AAU as well, like I think your class is like one of the classes that just we've seen a lot of players who kind of like you maybe got under recruited because people didn't get to watch you play as much in summer sessions.
Yeah.
It's really interesting the way that that's turned out because there's no precedence for it. Just like we're here now. So
Yeah. It's definitely interesting. Especially when we were in COVID. How are you making kids feel like wanted in your program? So yeah, it was interesting. I was also when I came here my first day of college, I was, I think, 136 pounds. I was skinny.
mhm.
So I think my body just being like a late bloomer and just being a skinny person, I think that was another thing that I struggled my freshman year. I was just getting beat up just because I was not physically ready for Big 12 basketball.
Yeah, a lot to dive in with that because, like you mentioned, like just the actual physicality part is a huge part of,
Mhm.
especially like non-con. You can kind of skate by depending on who you're playing, but like
Mhm.
you get into the meat of like playing a Power Five conference and like okay, especially like Texas. Like Texas is always big, especially this year. I don't know if you've seen them play it all this year, but it feels like every player is 6'2" or
Yes.
taller, which is
Yes.
just nuts. But yeah, what was that process like of because I think like a lot of people can just imagine like, oh, all you got to do is eat, and it's a lot more than just eating to put on weight, and not just weight, but like healthy weight that actually helps you become a better basketball player.
Yeah. Honestly, I think I will die on this hill. I think gaining like good muscle weight is a lot harder than losing weight.
Yep.
My brother is an offensive lineman.
He's in North Dakota State, right?
Yes.
Mhm.
And I just felt like him my freshman year, and I know it was nowhere near what he had to do, but it felt like I was just trying to eat all of the time. And anytime I had a break, I was supposed to be eating. So it was a job. I'm still trying to gain weight to this day. Um, but yeah, like you said, non-conference, you can kind of just skate by, and then Big 12 comes and you're playing big physical guards. And now we're having COVID years too, so you're playing fifth year, sixth year, seniors. So that was a big adjustment. But you can only do, I mean, you have to do everything you can to prepare and then just go in and try to play strong.
Yeah, no, without a doubt. And I think it's so interesting too, because like we see freshmen thrive all the time, especially like this year's freshmen have been ridiculous to watch. But
Mhm.
I think like so often you see a freshman thrive in a role where maybe it's a little bit smaller, or like they're playing off ball, or it's more about like them playing off of an older group, and you're coming in and having to play as a point guard right away, which is like, as you mentioned with Coach Mitty, that's asking a lot for what he wants to run out of the offense. So was there like a moment that was maybe the most challenging for you, or that made you like that kind of tested you the most, but also maybe helped you realize like, yeah, I'm cut out to do this?
I'll never forget our just my freshman year practices. Our practice squad, excuse me, our practice guys were intense, and they love to just beat up on us, and Coach Mitty would love to have them just get up, get pressure all over. And I would turn the ball over, get it back, they're on me, turn the ball over. And I was near tears. I mean, I was mentally just, I couldn't get out of it. So practices were really, really hard. But it just made the game so much easier. And in the moment during practices, I could not see like why do we need to be doing all this? And then we get to the games and it's a lot easier. So I don't know if there's one specific moment, but I just remember practices being very difficult.
Yeah. What was like your very first practice like?
Um well, honestly, we come in the summers.
Yeah. I know. Yeah. I read in a story that you came like the day after prom, you were playing at 6 a.m.
Yeah.
the next day.
Yeah. I came, so I didn't get to do much prom night. And I had all my stuff packed up and came down on Sunday to move in, and then you're in practices on that Monday. But summers are a great way to kind of just ease yourself into it in a
Mhm.
sense, get to where you want to try to be conditioning wise. I mean, even the adjustment of the 3-point line when you come in freshman year, that was a big deal for me. It felt like I was chucking it up there a little bit because it
Yeah.
was farther. So you're just trying to adjust to all of that, and then you're taking summer classes. So summer was really helpful. Um, but then first official practice, it was just hard. And the whole month of October is just, my mother calls it hell month. She knows not to call me very much during that month. And if I'm short with her, she's just gonna be like, okay, I'll call you tomorrow. I mean, she's great. But she can just like, she knows that's my month where I'm gonna be doing basketball. I'm gonna be at the gym for 6 hours a day, and then I'm gonna be doing school. And I think freshman year we had a certain number of shots that we had to get up from Coach Minnie, like outside of practice. So it was hard. It was a lot. But
Yeah. No, I can imagine. And going off that too, in terms of like learning everything to get acclimated as a point guard. I think it's really tough because like obviously you guys were incredibly good your freshman year, and then Ioka's injured for the next season, and your role like completely changes in terms of what the offense looks like and how things are being run and how you're getting to things. Have to ramp up your scoring aggression a little bit, and now obviously like shifting again this year. So like I feel like one of the things that's really tough about it was funny because I found a really good quote about this from Coach Mitty before he even got on campus. He was like, I don't know if she's a point guard. I don't know if she's a two guard. I don't know if she's a slasher. I know she's going to be on the floor. So, like, how do you kind of apply that? Because I think, again, like, it's the kind of thing where you look at it, and part of what's so fun about watching you play is I feel like you don't think when you play basketball, you just make things happen. But that's a lot easier said than done when you have to change up your role so much. So like what has that process been like of kind of having to really just keep changing and evolving your game?
Yeah. I mean, freshman year is hard, and I was a point guard, but we also had our All-American center, and I could dribble it down and lob it up to her, and that would work a lot of the time. So when she told, I'll never forget the day she told us that she was not playing last year. It was our first day of like true conditioning in August. This conditioning was so hard. I have never thrown up from a workout in my life, but I was just gassed. It was first day back, went to the bathroom, threw up. Graphic, sorry.
Oh, you're good.
Then, then okay, we finished conditioning. We're in a film room, and she comes up, just back to back punches. She's like, "Yeah, I'm out for the year," and we were like, "Oh my gosh!" Like, "Oh my gosh." She was our whole offense. Our whole offense was centered around her. So we knew that. I mean, a lot of things were going to change right when she said that. So yeah, then boom, I was expected to be a scorer and be I'm on the face of our posters and I see billboards and it's my face and I'm like that I don't know if that should be me right now. So it was a lot of pressure. It was a lot of pressure. It was like, okay, I need to be on this team. I need to be someone who can carry this team a little bit. And I struggled. I struggled with that. It was hard. Um, that was a hard October non-conference. I didn't play as well as I wanted to. It came into January, and I just remember talking to my coach, and they just were kind of telling me straight up, like we need more from you. So it's hard. But then I picked it up and I played well, finishing the conference season. But yeah, that role change was very drastic. And then this year, obviously, we have a lot of players on the floor who can score and contribute. So my role has changed once again, but it's been fun. And looking back in hindsight, I think last year was really a blessing in disguise. It really made us guards grow up quickly, and we had to learn how to score without Yoki on the court and how to create for ourselves. So um, looking back, I think it's all worked out I mean, how it should. I mean,
Yeah.
perfectly.
Yeah, no, definitely. It's like I think that's the unfortunate part is like of injuries happening is like yeah, they happen and it sucks, but also like okay, it does mold us and get us ready for something. Now it's like okay, well, it's big reason why you guys have been largely a top 10 team this season is having the depth and being able to play like that. And shifting to the other side of the court too, I wanted to ask because like one of the things I've loved about watching you guys is the defense. Like you guys can play so big across the board, especially like I think watching both Iowa games, I thought was huge because with how much you guys were switching on Caitlin off the ball, um, like you obviously and the Glenn sisters, like you can legitimately play 4 or 5 players who are all 6 feet or taller on the court, and like
Mhm.
that's really tough to play against defensively, especially with how mobile you guys are, and like Yoki's an incredible rim protector. So, what do you think has been like your biggest growth or thing that you've learned the most defensively? Because I know Coach Mitty really harped on defense at Big 12 Media Day, and it's really shown out this season, it feels like.
Yeah, honestly, he was talking about our defense since this June, since everyone got on campus, and I don't think it really like hit us like, yeah, we wanted to be good defensively, and we were doing a lot of defensive drills, but you can never really tell in practices of how that's going to apply or statistically how you're measuring up to other teams. So I don't think it really hit us of how well and efficient we are defensively until lately. We had a film session the other day where he like shared some stats with us of how we're second in the nation for I don't remember what it is, three-point field goal percentage, second in the nation for this, first in Big 12 for this, and we're all like, "Oh shoot, okay, like we're pretty good." I think I don't know what our growth point has been like why this year defensively is so good. I think what like you said, we're all really lengthy, which is something that teams aren't used to playing against, just big guards who can switch off 1 through 4. but I think it's just been an emphasis for us this year. And practices, like I said, he is on us. Coach Mitty, he is picky and we are annoyed with him, but it pays off in games because if we're not in the right spots in practices, he's going to make us go again. So we can get it right in games and it's going to be easier for games. And we want the games to be slowed down. So in practices, our practice guys are doing some crazy actions and we need to be able to read them and point them out before they even happen. So when it comes in games and the girls are just dribbling slowly, calling out, we're like, okay, we know exactly what's gonna happen. So I think just our emphasis and focus on the defensive end has been more exaggerated this year.
Yeah, definitely. And it stood out. When you look at just as a whole where the group is at, what I know I feel like a lot of people would probably point to the Iowa game, but what game do you feel has been maybe the most complete showing you guys have had, or the one that you guys can point to and be like, that's how we need to play every game?
Mm. Um, I don't know. There hasn't been a game where Coach Mitty has ever came in the locker room and said, "Wow, that was awesome." I mean, he'll give us credit, but there's always stuff we can work on. So I don't know if there's one game in particular. I will say the second half of the Mizzou game offensively, was really fun to play, and that's kind of what we're striving for. There's a stretch there where everything was just flowing and we were finding passes and knocking down shots. So I guess that one, second half of the Mizzou game.
Yeah, no, for sure. And speaking of the Mizzou game too, what was that like getting to be close to home and play back in Missouri?
Oh man, it was awesome. It was so cool. I think after the game, I was trying to go find, so my whole high school team came. So I was trying to go find my high school coach, and I was just bombarded in the best way possible. I could not take a step without someone just being right there asking for a picture, an autograph. And it was people I knew and people I didn't know that knew me, or people that knew someone that knew me. It was amazing though. And I had to go to media. So my manager came up and he said, Randy needs you, our media guy. So we were trying to make it all the way downstairs to media, and it took me probably 25 minutes to get down there just because I was trying to see as many people as possible. My grandma and grandpa were there, and I didn't even make it over to them because there were so many people, but it was amazing. It was so fun. It was awesome.
Yeah, how many people did you have at the game?
I don't know the exact number. It was a lot of people, though. It was a lot of people. My parents were not there.
Oh,
I
that's
like to
tough.
tell people that.
That's a
Um,
nice little fun fact. Yeah.
nice little fun fact. My brother was playing in playoff football, and he's a sixth-year senior, so they had to go to his game.
In terms of like where the team's at right now and in Big 12 play, what are the things that you guys really want to do and accomplish this conference season?
I mean, obviously we want to win the Big 12. That would be our top of the list goal. So yeah, we will have to. I mean, we'll have to keep playing well and keep preparing well. And not take any night off, which can be easy to do when you once we start getting records and you can compare scores and you can look at all those things. We can't let that be a factor in how we're gonna go into every night. Because Big 12 is tough and any team can win on any given night. Yeah, so I think that'll be a big thing. I think road games, I don't know if you know, but we did not win a road game last year, which was really tough. So road games we're all really focused on road games. It's so fun to go in and just beat somebody at their own place. But that'll be a big key, especially because we only get Baylor once this year. That'll be a big game for us when we play at Baylor. We have a big week this week. I mean, every week is big. So when you look at it from a grand scheme of things, it can get overwhelming, and we're gonna play a lot of good teams. So you got to do both. You got to understand the big picture, but also take it day by day and do what you can. I mean, right now we're gonna prepare for Oklahoma, so that's where my mind needs to be at.
Yeah, that's all you can do. And I think, one of the things I'm always interested in too, like You mentioned earlier that you've seen Texas play. So like how like aware are you of like other teams playing? Are you somebody who's like really focused on you guys and just, sticking to what you're doing week to week, or are you kind of, seeing other stuff going on in college basketball and keeping up with it?
Yeah, I think we keep up with it. It's kind of one of those things you want to keep up with it and be involved in the game, but you also don't want to let that be like, oh, we play Oklahoma. Oklahoma beat this team by this much. Like, oh no. Or we play this team. They lost to this team by 20. Like, it'll be fine. You can't let that come into our games, but it is fun to watch other teams play, especially teams that, you've beat or teams you're gonna play to just get an early scout or early feel. So yeah, we stay involved.
Awesome. No, I like that. Um, Yeah, so I have to ask too before we get out of here. I know that you were on the team for Yoki's 61 point game. What was that
Mhm.
like as a player, just like kind of witnessing that happen in game? Because I feel like that's one of the things where you're like, maybe you don't recognize when it's happening in the moment, but as the game starts to go on or you get to halftime, you're like, oh, okay, this is like we have something pretty special going on here.
I remember that 61 point game. I remember looking up at the our big scoreboard where everyone's points and fouls are and seeing where I think I was on the bench. It was like 50 something and I was like, "Oh my gosh." Like I knew it was going to be a lot, but I did not know it was going to be that much. And then I go back in the game and that was one of those games where I was just dribbling the ball up, going to the wing and lobbing it up. And Oklahoma did not seem to change their defense or I would throw it to the corner and they would throw it in. I felt like as guards, we were doing a really great job of finding her. But and then again, she's just such a force in the paint that it seemed like Oklahoma did not know what to do. They did not have an answer, obviously. Then she got 61. I remember her being called out and everyone stood up, standing ovation. I gave her a hug before she ran out and I just got chills from my whole body. I don't think I like knew didn't understand like the greatness of it in the moment. I just knew it was special. And looking back today, I'm like, wow, that's a lot of points. And then I think when I'm an adult farther down in my life, I'll look back and be like, oh my goodness. Like I think today I still don't even realize how special it is just because she's putting up crazy numbers like that all the time.
Yeah, I think that's what's so jarring too, because like obviously like we've seen her have like a ton of huge scoring outbursts before, but like that's just, I mean, it's crazy. Like you see people get
Mhm.
shouted out for like a 40-point game, and rightfully so. And that's what makes it so crazy because you're like, that's 61. Like what?
Right.
Yeah, no, I'll never forget seeing the ESPN ticker when that happened. So I wasn't watching the game live, and then I went back and saw it on Synergy the next thing. I was like, Jesus Christ, okay.
Yeah,
That kind of game.
it
Um,
was crazy.
yeah. I also have to ask too. I know you've known the Glenn sisters for a really long time, came up in AAU with them. Like in terms of like just having been around them for so long and playing together for as long as you have, what is that relationship like? Because I feel like a lot of people like obviously know people in basketball that they've come up with, but you know, in terms of playing together for that long, it's a different aspect for sure.
Yeah, so I started playing travel ball, I think in third grade in Kansas City. So I'm from Maryville. That's like a little less than 2 hours. I drive down, travel. Play, and I would always play against the twins. We would always compete. Our teams would always compete. And my team would beat them. And then we started going back and forth. Sometimes we'd win, sometimes we'd lose. And then they would just kick our butt, the Glenn's team. So my mom was like, Serena, I don't know like why they're getting so much better and your team isn't, but I think we should switch teams. And I was so mad. I did not want to do that. I cried. My dad was like, no, you'll be fine. Because on this team that I was currently on, I just had to do everything. So my mom was really pushing for me to switch teams. So finally I did. And I was in sixth grade. And ever since then, we played for the same coach on the same team until, I mean, my senior year of high school. They committed here, I think my sophomore year in high school, they committed early. Um, and that was, I mean, I don't really feel like that was a huge factor in my decision. But it was a perk definitely coming in I mean, having people to live with that I knew, and then just going through all of that stuff that I said earlier about summer and just the adjustments, just having friends and a chemistry, was super helpful. So they've been super fun, just to grow with and go through my college career with.
No, that's super dope. Like having that kind of thing
Hmm.
where you like, I mean, you just kind of know them like the back of your hand. What's like, do you feel like you have like that kind of like chemistry where you just kind of know what they're doing on the court or what's going to happen as soon as they start to shift a certain way, or like what does that feel like for you?
Yeah, I do. I think it's a lot of trust too. Like I can just trust that Briley defensively is gonna lock down her defender and she's gonna bring energy and she's gonna communicate. So that's just always easier to play on the floor with people that you just know where they're gonna be and when they're gonna be there. So yeah, I think it's a huge advantage in every aspect.
Yeah. Um, just two more questions before I get you out of here. Well, I know we talked about team goals, but for the rest of the year, what are your individual goals? Like, what are things that you really want to keep getting better at, or things that you want to accomplish as the year goes on?
Yeah, I think I want to keep being aggressive. Um, I feel like my non-conference, I had some games where I was not necessarily a threat to score as much as I wanted to be. So that's kind of been a focus these last couple of games is just finding my shot and shooting it confidently. And it's hard. It's harder than it sounds. I feel like I
Yeah,
tell people that, and it's harder than it sounds because Coach Mitty is always talking about our shot selection. It's not my shot, it's our shot and what's the best shot for the team. So that's in the back of your head. And I also want to be a great passer. So I think I just want to keep finding that balance and knowing when in games I need to try to go find my own shot or when we need to move the ball more. And just knowing who your opponent is too.
yeah. How do you kind of keep yourself in check with that? Because, like you said, it's hard to be a continual threat. Like again, like easy to think of, but like to do it in principle is a lot harder. So, like, how do you kind of reinforce that, or like what things do you go over or try and look at in film or just in general?
Yeah, I think film has really helped just going back over the games and you can see Serena, you had a wide open three-pointer right there. Like shoot the ball, you're killing the offense. Or okay, that's probably not a good shot. You had Briley open in the opposite corner. So film helps. I think people haven't really been telling me not to shoot right now because I think I'm more on the other end where I want to pass. I'd love to get to a point where Coach Mitty's telling me not to shoot, but I mean, he's always encouraging of shoot the ball, like that's a good look for us. So he helps. He knows what shot selection he wants, and I want to learn from him. So yeah, I think just those two things. It's hard though. It's hard to figure out, and it's also like, okay, if I have 5 points tonight, that doesn't mean I played bad. I mean, I just didn't. Other people were open, and then at the end of the day, we're 15-1, so we're playing well. So at the end of the day, you just want to win games. So it's all of
Yeah.
that combined, and it's a lot, but that's basketball.
Yeah, and like not to gas you, but I think that's part of what I enjoy about your game so much. Like you can have a game where you maybe only score 5 points, but you still have a big impact because of what you do, on the glass or bringing the ball up or just what you do as a playmaker or what you do defensively. Like there's like scoring obviously is important, but there's always it's about what the baseline of everything else you bring that matters too. So it's
Right.
it's good to have that mindset.
Yeah.
Um,
I mean, yeah, you definitely have to keep that just in perspective throughout all of this because it's easy to just see the stats in the box score and feel like you didn't play well. But I mean, when your team's winning and there's so many ways you can impact the game besides what's shown on the paper. So that's hard to keep in mind as I mean, this is all we do is go to basketball practice. Like you want to score points, every player does, but having that perspective is really helpful.
Yeah, no, most definitely. And then lastly, what really drives you? Like, what things do you want to keep accomplishing? Like, not just this year, but moving forward, or what is it that keeps really motivating you to become a better player?
Yeah. I think First is my family, my parents and my brother. They all played college athletics, and my parents like introduced me to the game, and they did everything in their power to get me to where I'm at, and they come to all my games. So they're definitely a huge inspiration to me. And then I think I'll give you two. The second thing is just the little girls and boys, not necessarily from small towns, but just out there who need a little bit of encouragement and inspiration. I think coming like from my town, not everybody has the resources to go play travel basketball and get in gyms and even find basketball shoes and all that stuff. So I think just being someone from a small town who can make it big and be successful at a Power Five school, I just want to show them that it's possible as long as you just work hard and keep believing in yourself and trust the process, which is maybe all cliche, but it's true.
Yeah, it's funny though, because like I feel like the older I get, the more I think like cliche actually is just realistic and being honest.
Yeah.
Like, so it's funny. Like I feel like so much of like coming up to me like, well, you can't be cliche, you don't want this, don't want that. But like, no, it's just being real. So I appreciate that for sure.
Yeah.
Um, but Serena, I really appreciate your time. It was dope getting to know you. Excited to watch you guys continue throughout the year. Is there anything you want to shout out before we get out of here?
No, I don't think so. Thanks for having me. This was
Yeah, of
fun.
course. Yeah, no doubt. To everyone listening, thank you for listening. Of course, keep up with everything going on in K-State. I'll have the schedule linked down below. Most importantly, have a great rest of your day.